I am not a poet, or at least I don't feel like one. Poets live their lives boldly, opposing establishment, opposing the corrupt, opposing others who, through the eyes of poets, are exposed for their blindness at last. I oppose too, but do it more silently, with tinier confidences, unsure of my voice, but sure, unshakable, on the following matters. Establishment is rarely on our side, no matter how ardently some may argue that they are. Corruption is real, and is more poisonous by far than the poisons that run in our rivers, which establishment would have us ignore. And blindness, the blindness of others who look into our lives and judge without compassion or hesitation, and speak with forked tongues despite their preachings against speaking with forked tongues. This blindness, if it continues to be indulged and enabled and perpetuated by blinded and sighted alike, this blindness will destroy more than lives. It will destroy our world. It is already happening. I am not a poet, or at least I don't feel like one, but I am not blind. Hi everybody. So I'm here today to talk about a specific section in From the Back of a Thirsty Camel. That section is the first section in the book called Personal Prophecies. I started off by reading that poem, though. That's a poem in the section, Personal Prophecies. I wanted to read it to you because that was actually the very first poem that I wrote, sitting in a coffee shop, rereading the manuscript for my first book, The Long Road Home. So that book was just about to come out. It was all done. And that poem that I just read, by the way, it's called The Half-Breed Poet, was the first thing that I wrote. In between these two publications, The Long Road Home and Thirsty Camel. So the poems in this section, Personal Prophecies, are special for me. Yes, they're personal. Some of them are landmarks along my journey. Poems that I wrote to deal with something I was going through. Poems that I wrote about a lesson that I had learned in my life. Oftentimes, most of the time, after a big challenge or suffering had occurred in my life. These poems, for me, as an ecstatic poet, as someone who uses poetry as a spiritual or devotional practice, these poems were a way for me to integrate my life experiences. But when I put them all together, this clump of poems that I didn't really know what to do with, they were a little bit like my diary or my journal. Should I even include them in my next publication? The answer came pretty quickly, because these poems had power. They had personal power. They almost had a type of predictive power, almost as if they were like telling my fortune in some way. I would read these poems now with a little bit of hindsight, and I would say, oh my gosh, that poem was the integration of a lesson, but it also told me where I was going to head immediately next in my life. So the idea behind this section, Personal Prophecies, is this idea that we all have this power. We all have this power to use art, to use contemplation, certainly to use poetry, this vehicle of ecstatic poetry. Yes, to integrate life experiences. Yes, to mark our profound landmarks in our lives. But also there's something a little bit different. We can become our own prophets. We are our own prophets. And through the power of ecstatic poetry, through the power of kind of visionary art, I discovered this for myself, and it was a really, really powerful experience for me when I did. So this is the gift, actually, that I hope to give to you, and people who encounter this book, Thirsty Camel. I hope that the message or the messages that you'll receive in Personal Prophecies are not necessarily a message of my journey. Oh, that was cool. He went through that. Oh, that was fine. He talked about that circumstance. But instead, wow, I have this power. I have this power to use art. I have this power to use writing, poetry, um, for healing, for integration, and almost to look into my crystal ball and see what happens next in my life. It's pretty magical. So I have a couple magical poems that I'd like to read to you. Again, these poems were my lessons, and going back and reading them, they feel like gifts. They feel like fortune teller myths that came true for me. So I'd like to offer them to you, that they might come true for you as well. This poem from Personal Prophecies in Thirsty Camel is called The Cost of Longing. Longing and beauty are not separate, and this is why I grieve. Not because all phenomena are fleeting, for even withered beauty tells a tale that lives on. Not because of separation, the illusion that we all purchase with the limited currency of our hearts. Before long the account is drained, and what remains for us is a type of bankruptcy that makes the whole world seem mute on all the long days filled with music. No, it is none of these. I grieve because there are those who perceive the longings of the world as a sickness, who misconstrue longing as the activity of an unwhole heart, seeking its completion in all the wrong places. What is the cost of longing? It depends on what you do when you feel its pull. But should you choose to ignore it completely, you will risk missing the voyage that could bring you home. So I encourage you, if you meet someone along your path who tells you that what you long for is foolish, or that it's foolish to long, to feel longing at all, I would encourage you to realize that they're the fool. This is a poem called Love Yourself, and it came during a time when I did not love myself. But then it showed me the way there. Love yourself. Not because I said you should, or because your dearest ones have always told you that it was good advice. Love yourself instead because you have accepted that there are many yous inside the one. And you have seen Beauty and Beast, the folly of your own darkness, generosity and pride, kindness, cradling, fear, all of these, because you have felt the sting of your own selfishness as it spreads across the face of someone who loves you. And you have realized that the only way to be free of the painful circling is to love every part, each you see, like a newborn child just emerging from its source. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for continuing to go on this journey into the heart of transformative words as ecstatic art with me. And I would encourage you, as you read Personal Prophecies or just contemplate the idea that you are your own personal prophet, I would encourage you to believe that you are. I think the ultimate message of this section is that we are more powerful than we realize. See you next time.